Introducing Zach Davis and Josh Anderson with the SoundMoney Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the SoundMoney Sound Principles Podcast. Josh Anderson here, excited to be with you today. Excited to have with me my business partner, Zach Davis. How are you, Zach?
I'm good, Josh.
Man, what an awesome few days. We just had lots of unique business experiences this last little while that have kind of helped you and I reflect on, what is the most important thing for an entrepreneur. Recently you and I have been reminded as business opportunities have come up, as some of our businesses have done really well as of late, other ones have flourished and new opportunities have come along. We were sitting around reflecting, you and I, on maybe like what is the most important thing that we've done over the last 30 years, 25, 30 years in business that has made the biggest difference. And we kind of boiled it down to this week's topic. And this week's topic, if you boil all success in business down, you'll usually end up at a spot where this is a central key ingredient to success or failure. Or to even have the opportunity to see it, to even be the one that somebody calls or the one that it comes across your desk. And so today we want to jump into this topic that you and I just feel like is probably singularly the most important thing that we deal with as an entrepreneur. And that is really quite simply boiled down. Key to success is most often your network. The people that you associate with, that know you, that your sphere of influence, the people that respect you or that you respect. We've had guests on before for our listeners, right? We had Roger Ball on, one of our business partners, and he shared with the listeners how important relationships are. And that he used a term, he said that relationships actually rule the world. You recently heard our president, Donald Trump, say the exact same thing when he was on a Middle East visit. He was over there and he was in the Middle East putting together a couple $1 trillion deals. And he said that relationships ruled the world. And for you and I, right, we 100% know that in business, probably the most important thing is the relationships of the people that you know in the business or in the like business or have had knowledge about what you're trying to do. And so today, Zach, we want to jump in and we want to talk a little bit about this idea of networking. Like, what does it mean to actually grow a network of people that you can turn to and ask questions to in business?
Yeah, some people might debate on whether it's the most important thing or not, but man, if you think about it, what you need is money to do what you need to do, right? And other people need products and services. People need food. But the person that grows 500 acres worth of strawberries doesn't need 500 strawberries or 500 acres worth of strawberries. They can't consume it, right? So they grow it because they need the money. So if you think about it, everything you need is really inside of somebody else's wallet. So when you're selling a product or service, it is really all relationships. And I can think back of through all the years, all the different things that we've done. It's because we met somebody previously in some business deal, and then years later that relationship circled back and some other type of business came up. And people always say, it's who you know is the saying, right? It's who you know. I think it's a little more than that. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. Right? You could know a lot of people, but if you didn't make some impact on them or leave some impression, when they have some opportunity, they're not going to think of you, right? Unless you know them. But regardless, that network effect, that really is the key thing about business, because if you don't have those relationship and networks, even if you're in business, you're not looking for a new opportunity, you probably have some problem that you're trying to solve that someone else has already solved or may have the idea to solve because they have experience in some other business that would lend to giving you the knowledge that you need, right? So it really is about the relationships in life and who you know and who knows you and the opportunities that come with all that. It's huge.
I was recently asked this question by I'll just call him an aspiring entrepreneur. This is somebody who's had two different businesses. They've had a one-hit wonder so far in life. They tried another thing and it failed. And the gentleman said to me, Zach, he said, I don't want to get pigeonholed into just being this one thing. And he came to me with the most sincere desire to know what does somebody who's had success or is having success in lots of different verticals, what is the difference between them and a one-hit wonder? And I actually said it's the network effect. It's that I know enough other people who are in all these different industries that it's a one phone call to someone at the top of the food chain in that space. And because we've had positive interactions with them, they're going to answer the phone on one ring usually, right? And so because of that, and the statement I used to him, and if for our listeners, if you're new to the channel, go back and look at this episode. You can go back. There's an episode with Anthony Webb, brilliant genius, like one of the top 10 smartest computer minds on the earth today, I believe. So in my world, that's what I think of him. But he said the difference between success. We were posed the question: why are you more successful in your 40s and 50s than you are in your 20s and 30s when you start businesses as an entrepreneur? And he said, well, it's who you know. It's this network, right? He positioned it that in your 20s, you don't know very many people. And so your failure rate is much higher because you just don't know where to turn to get the right answers or the right guidance. But if you keep moving forward and you keep doing things in this world, in business, you meet more and more people. And as long as you make a positive impression on them, guess what? They're there for you as a resource in the future. And so that's why more of your businesses sometimes in your 40s and 50s are ultra successful, because you can cut the learning process down so short, so small, because you can go to an expert in merchant processing or in graphic design or in analytics or SEO, right? You have made relationships in every aspect of business, right? International shipping or imports and exports, right? You've made connections. So it just shrinks it, but it's all about networks. And it's about the kind of person that you are that they want to do business with, and vice versa. So
yeah, and you just don't really know where people are going to go. Like you meet people and they're doing one thing, and there may be this tempting thought of like, yeah, I don't really need to remember that guy or pay attention to that guy. And then all of a sudden he shows up 5 years later in some capacity that could solve all your problems. But he doesn't remember you, right? Because you didn't spend the time to foster the relationship and build a relationship, because whatever the relationship was back then was transactional, right? I just need to know you for a second, get this done. But you don't have this relationship. I don't know how many times, Josh, we've been trying to solve a problem early on in business, and it's like you call and call and call, and you can't get anybody on the phone. Nobody give you the answer, or they tell you no, or you can't solve the problem. But as the years have gone by, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're having a problem with merchant processing. Oh, I know exactly who to call, right? And there is none of this. Well, let me get back with you, or we'll run it up the team. Let us send you email. We know the person to call. And now the company who's suffering and struggling, that may be a competitor, they're trying to figure it out and trying to figure out who to call or how to get up through the chain. And we've already got the problem solved because of the relationship, right? It's the person that you know. And, I've always believed that your net worth will never be bigger than your network. So how many people do you know? Like, how big is your network? And are you continually building that network and finding out what people do and who they are? And super important.
I think, to illustrate the point, I can't share this specific because it's probably premature, but literally in the minutes before we started the podcast today, you said, Zach, an interesting statement. You said you want to be the person that others are calling with their problem, right? And to illustrate the point, right, I received this text at 3:02 today. We're recording this at like 3:48, so 40 minutes ago. A governor of one of the Western United States of America is begging to meet to fix a problem their state has that we are very adept at fixing, right? That we can fix immediately. And here's a governor who is texting me with, these are the dates that are available. Gave me 4 dates. Please, will you do all in your power to meet me at the state capitol on one of these days to see if you can fix my problem? You want to be that, right? And the way you get there is you fix lots of little problems along the way. when I was 25, Zach, and we were 25, the governors of the United States of America weren't sending that text, right? They weren't sending that text, begging us to fit it in our schedule, right? And they would make any time available. But because we fixed lots of other little problems along the way, they believe that you can fix it now. So that's the power, right? That's networking. Maybe Zach, this is interesting.
And by the way, too, I think Josh, there's a power in it. You might not know how to fix it.
Yeah.
You might not know the answer. But how many times I want you guys, all of you who are listening to this, to think about this for a minute. How many times has somebody called you and said, "Hey, my furnace is broke, or my water heater's broke, or I got this business problem, or my car's broke down, or whatever," and that person called you, but they didn't know who to call. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, "Oh, I really know how to solve this problem, or I know a person that can, but I'm too busy right now," so you just ghost them. Or you're like, "Oh, you know what? I don't know. I can't remember their phone number." Like you don't. So the part of the networking that I think is super powerful is you might not have the answer to fix the transmission, but if you know somebody who is a really good mechanic and you connect those two people together, guess who those two people are going to love forever?
That's right.
The mechanic wants the business. John wants the car fixed. You made it happen. You didn't have the problem and you couldn't solve the problem other than to put the relationships together. So now next time mechanic guy needs something, who's he calling? Right? He's calling you. Next time the other guy needs something, who's he calling? Well, you don't know where that goes. Now you just did a favor for John. Now you can call and say, "John, hey, I heard you know this guy. Can you introduce him to me?" Right? Now all of a sudden he's like, "Oh yeah, let me do that because I know you and I know you're a good guy and you're going to help people out." Mechanic guy, right? He might know somebody, or he might call and be like, "Hey, I have somebody that you really need to meet." So you don't know where that circle of relationships is going to go. So it's just wise to just be helpful to people, right? Even if you can't solve their immediate problem, if you can refer them to somebody that you know, or even if it takes you a couple of extra phone calls, it's worth doing it. I'll give you an example. This is a pain in my butt. I have a guy that's renting one of my rental spaces. They have a spraying business. He was trying to find somebody to move a trailer, right? Or move their big spraying rig. Well, it takes a pretty unique trailer to do it. So he sent me a text. "You know anybody that could move this?" Well, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I know 4 or 5 guys that probably either would know who could do it or do it. I was super busy. And the temptation was to just send him a text and say, "You know what? I don't have a trailer. I don't know who can move it for you." Right? So instead of doing that, I thought about this network effect, right? And I went, "Oh, okay." So I shot him a couple different names and I called a couple people and said, "Hey, are you available to do this? Can you help this guy?" Well, at the end of the day, he got hooked up. He got his spray rig where he needed to have it on time so he could meet the customer's obligations. Now, I don't know where that's going to go. I have no idea. And by the way, I don't have any expectations. I'm not like, "Oh, I hope that comes back to me." But the guy that I helped, who I connected him to, he's forever going to be thinking, "Oh yeah, if I need something, I can call Zach. He'll bend over backwards to try to help me out." Right? The guy that I gave some extra business to, he's going to be appreciative. So you just don't know where, and neither one of those two people may be in that business. And in 10 years, they might call and say, "You know what? I'm going to call that Zach guy and talk to him about this opportunity because he's a go-getter." Like
he's a connector. A networker is a connector.
Yep.
It's funny you say that, right? We have these happen every day, all day, so we don't think much of them. But that's why we wanted to share it with the listeners. You want to be the person that connects things for people, and without financial remuneration, right? You just want to help people. That's how you get. Maybe in a minute, Zach will share an experience of how you and I did. I don't know, close to $60 million with $10 million profit in the mineral business because of that. We could share that, but to the point, I was just driving out to do this podcast today, and yesterday a gentleman called me who knew that I knew another gentleman. And he said, "Hey, would you be willing to share this company's information with me? I know that you're friends of theirs." And I said, "Sure." It's a gentleman I know. The second gentleman that I gave the phone number, he called me when I was driving here. He said, "Hey, you gave," I'll just use their first name so I don't get in trouble. But he said, "You gave Jeremy my phone number. I want to say thank you." I said, "Well, what for?" He said, Well, Jeremy's business is an answer to our prayers. Is what we need today. Like what we really need today is what this man offers. And we've checked him out. And if he's a friend of yours, we want to do business with him. My point is, right? Like when people need to be connected to help each other, you want to be that resource. You want to be somebody that they go to. If you're a real entrepreneur, or if you're striving to be one, and you're just starting out, become good at connecting people and solving other people's problems, regardless. Maybe the best way to illustrate that, right? So Zach, I don't know if we've ever talked to the listeners about it. One of our businesses, we have many things, right? Many verticals, but one of the verticals that we really like is we love oil in the ground, right? It's called the mineral rights business. It's a really tight niche community. I mean, this community is really tight-lipped, really small. They don't let outsiders in. It's really tough business to get into and to be a part of. But during the last oil boom, you and I made ridiculous money doing this business. And probably some of the funnest things that we ever got involved in our whole life. But you and I wanted to be in that business for a long time. About how many years from the time that you first thought about it and you and I then years later talked about it? How long is that process before we actually, that we were trying to own oil in the ground?
Probably 7 or 8 years.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm trying to think.
Since the first time I was, like, how in the crap do you do this? Who owns this? How do you do that? It was probably 7.
Bought our first deal in 2012. Probably at least 2005 when you first came up with that wanting to do it. Yep. You told me about it, I know, in the end of 2008. I know we worked on it hard, 2009, 10, 11, and then it's 12 before. So 5 years that we actively, like, you had the idea for 3 years before that, then we actively pursued it with nothing but a brick wall. To the point where, like, I guess 2 guys from Idaho can't do that. Like, maybe we ought to just tell a little bit of the story of how we actually cracked into that, right? Because it really illustrates this point to me of always increasing your network. We were trying to get into the mineral business at the time, but how we got into it had nothing to do with trying to get into it. Is what broke us free into the space to owning oil in the ground. Maybe walk through that a little bit. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. And if you think about your own life, some of you probably have experiences like this, and you ought to pay attention to it because it proves this network effect is really, really, really powerful. So one of the very first companies that I ever actually started, I was in college, is a trucking company up in Pinedale, Wyoming. The oil field was booming. Nobody needed money, so nobody knew about it, but I was a broke college kid. I'd gotten a degree, wasn't going to use that degree in any profession that I had gotten, made a major transition in my life. So I was like, well, right. So I started a company. So when I was in the oil field and I was hauling crude oil around and water, I always kept thinking, how in the world, who owns this oil that I'm hauling? Like, I know I'm making good money on this, and I know they're making more money than me, right? Because I see the price of the barrel of oil. I know how much oil is coming out of the ground. So, like, and I asked, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's the oil companies own it. You can't do that. I'm like, that just doesn't seem right. Like, where I'm picking up these loads of oil, the oil company can't own all this ground. Like, there's no way. So fast forward, years later, Josh and I got into business. We actually went to the same high school together. Yeah, we didn't know each other super well, but then we got involved in a business together and got to become really good friends, business partners. And then in that business, actually, I didn't have it on me.
I got one probably.
You can advertise for him.
I'll advertise for him. I love the guy. Actually, I have I don't have my original here, but this one's 15 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
There's
our black ink logo.
Yeah, that's actually the mineral right company.
Yep.
And this is my new one. I carry in my wallet today. So
perfect. So I was at lunch with an individual. He pulled out his wallet, and I saw his wallet. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. It's more like a billfold, but you put cards in it. And I don't like big fold up wallets, right? So I said, well, where'd you get that? He opened it up. It had a stamp on the inside of it that said Palm West Leather. I said, okay. So I went online and I ordered a wallet, and I ordered one for Josh. And when it gets here, I had an extra one. I'm like, well, I didn't pay for an extra one. So I call up the company. This guy on the other end of the phone picks it up, answers. We talk for a minute. I tell him, hey, I need to send you back this wallet, or I need to pay for it. You sent me too many. So he asked me where I'm from. I say, oh, I'm from up here in Idaho. He's like, oh, I used to live in Idaho. We start doing the whole, well, who do you know game, right? And we're like, oh, well, I know that person. I know that person. Long story short, after that phone call, we actually were trying to break into the Arizona market with the product that we were selling. And he's like, oh, my wife loves that kind of stuff. You should come down and talk to my wife. I'm like, this is insane. So number one, we were trying to get in there with this product. And now all of a sudden, because of this wallet, we have this opportunity to go down there. So I went down and I spent a week and worked with him. We got the product going. Well, he introduced me to another individual who ended up getting involved in that company. We spent quite a bit of time together, and we built a pretty good relationship, all of us. We went on cruises together. Like, we really got to know each other. Well, fast forward that, years later, Josh and his brother and some other guys said, hey, we need to go to North Dakota to the oil deal. I'm like, oh, okay, that was rough in Pinedale, but if we really want to do this. So I knew a little bit about that space because I'd had a business over there before. So we put together a trucking company and we ran a bunch of trucks up there in North Dakota. Well, we made some relationships up there, right? Well, one day we happened to be driving. I can't remember. We might have been driving back from North Dakota. And
yeah, we were driving back from North Dakota in the middle of nowhere in Montana.
Yeah.
And we got a phone call.
Yeah. And so this guy who we 2 layers down now that we met down in Arizona, built a relationship with, calls and says, hey, I'm doing this thing with water. And I'm like, okay, water. What you selling water purifiers? You're like, what are you doing with water? He's like, no, there's this really unique technology that's been developed where you can clean the water when it comes out of the well and you can inject it back in, or you can drink it. And we're trying to get it off the ground. He says, I knew you were in the oil business years and years and years ago, and I'm really trying to get up there in North Dakota with this technology. I'm like, okay, great. So we fly down, and I think we went to Midland, Texas, to go look at this technology. And it's like, yeah, we can probably help you do that. Well, while we were in the car, this is crazy. While we're in the car cruising down the road, he takes a phone call. And when he gets off the phone call, I can tell that he has just made a deal with oil and gas mineral rights because he's using the language, right? So he gets off the phone. I turn and I look to him and I go, hey, what are you really doing? Besides this cleaning up the water, what are you really doing? And he goes, oh, well, I have a brokerage and I buy and sell oil and gas mineral rights. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's been like 5, 6, 7 years. I've been trying to figure out how to do this. He goes, yeah, it's a really, really tight knit group. Like, you're on thunder. I don't know if you guys can hear it. We got a big
storm coming rolling through.
So, long story short, from like 2 or 3 different layers deep in a relationship, this guy is now he wasn't doing it when we first met him, right? But if we'd have just brushed off the relationship and like, oh, whatever, but we kept in contact. We stayed good friends. He remembered who we were, remembered what we did, called, said, I'm doing this. Find out he's building, or he's buying and selling oil and gas mineral rights. Well, from that, we got together. He started mentoring us and taught us how to do it. And we started buying it and then eventually set up a fund where we started buying and selling for other people. And it was an incredible business, like unbelievable business. But there's no way we would have gotten into that business if we would not have had the network, right? And so your net worth is only as big as your network. Like, we needed to know that guy and he needed to know us to make that phone call and put it all together, right? But it's like a perfect example of, you just don't know where the relationship is going to go. You might think that you're meeting one of your kids' friends at a baseball game, and they introduce themselves, and you're like, yeah, whatever, right? And then back on the game. You ought to maybe stop and get to know the person. Ask a few questions. Find out who they are. What do they do? Because you never know. That guy might run into something that you're trying to figure out, or he might already have the answer. Years later, he might call you and say, hey, I met you at our son's baseball game. You remember the conversation we had and it was impactful enough that he remembers you? I'm doing this. Do you want to come do it with me? Right? I'm looking for someone to partner, or I'm looking for someone to run my company, or do you know somebody? And it might lead you into that route. So it's just worth talking to people and trying to remember who people are and what they do, and staying in contact and building those relationships, because you just don't know where it's going to go.
Well, that's just it, and through that process, Zach, we've been beating our head against the wall, and the solution came because we were growing our network. Like, it didn't come because of the efforts that we had done. we were meeting lots of resistance there. It came because in other things that we were doing, we were the kind of people that people wanted to do business with. And those are learned skills. Like those are things that you can learn. You can learn how to treat people. You can learn how to make sure that you fulfill a commitment when you say you're going to do something, that you actually do it, and with no deviation and not late. And those are the things, right? And so I look at that and I go, wow, we knew that was a space we wanted to be in. We spent years to get there, but with the right connections that came through networking, when we did get there, my goodness, it was tremendous. Now, hey, love him or hate him, I might not love him. The Obama years, I mean, just flat killed that industry. I mean,
it was good.
When you go from having a business that's like, I don't know, ridiculous millions a year, and it dries up because of regulation, it's extremely frustrating, right? You all the listeners, you all paid the price. You paid $4 gasoline. You paid the price for voting for it, whatever, or other people did. But it's because of the relationships and the network effect that make that a reality. And it's no different. So at every turn, you get that opportunity. Now, Zach, I'm going to tease for a minute. They're not always roses and sunshine. The second deal that guy put us in touch with, do you remember the second deal that we ever did?
I remember. Certified mail.
Yeah.
You don't like certified. You don't like
the second deal we ever did. He put us in touch with a guy. His name was Joe. Joe was this big buyer for Mitt Romney and Bain Capital, and we do this mineral deal. We buy. I'll never forget. $325,000. We wire the deal. We get the deed back, and 3 months later, we used to go out and buy in front of the pit. When the drill would come, we'd know it's coming, and we'd get the flush production. We'd sell it off to all these places like Texas A&M and Stanford Endowment Fund and Harvard's Endowment Fund and all these things, right? Insurance companies, annuities. Never forget. This well's killed it. We're like, this is sweet. The well came in good, and before we even got the check for the royalty, we're like, hey, we need to put this back on the market because this is a smoker, and we sold it to Prudential Insurance.
Prudential Insurance.
Yeah, we sold it to Prudential Insurance, and then we get this legal notice that we don't, and they paid us.
Made good money on it.
We made really good money.
Good money on
Turned
it.
325 into 800, but it wasn't real. And then we sell it, and then we find out 3 months later that we didn't own it. That this guy that he put us in touch with, Joe, had scammed us and Bain Capital, and both of us thought we owned it. Neither of us owned it. He went to jail, by the way.
Yeah, I think he's still.
Yeah, sentenced to 20 years. It's probably coming up on it.
Yeah.
No, he got about 8 more years left. Eight years left.
Yeah, the world's still safe.
But that's another lesson, right? That network, this network effect's going to work both directions. You're going to meet great people, and you're going to meet some scumbags, right? You're going to meet a few snakes in the grass that you can't really tell they're a snake until it's too late and they bit you. But you can't stop, right? You don't stop. You don't stop because you meet bad people, and you don't stop because somebody screws you. I'm here to tell you in life, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to get screwed a few times. Well, not more than a few times. Okay. You gotta like duck water on duck's back, man. You gotta let that just roll off and go to the next process. Because if you get hung up about losing money, that's why engineers and accountants sometimes don't make the best entrepreneurs. Sometimes because they can't get over the loss, right? And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have losses, right? And so our second deal, we got in big trouble, and we lost 325 and had to pay back 800 because it wasn't real, and it was a bad deal. But out of that process and going through it and doing it, we learned the things we needed to look for, right? And how we needed to be different the next time. And we made millions on millions on millions. So it didn't matter, right? Like it mattered. It was great. It was the best education we could get in the second mineral deal ever, right? Because only in chaos and only in problems and only in difficulties do you really learn. I was just at our friends, Zach, I was just at Paul and Reed's business, right? I stopped in there, and
what'd you buy?
It was my son's birthday. And so, when they turn 14, they get a special thing from Paul and Reed's business, right? Yeah. So I go to Paul and Reed's business, right? Really interesting. I'm in there. Said, guys, how's it going? For the listeners, they own a large gun shop, right? They sell guns and ammunition. And Paul and Reed said to me, they said, man, it's actually great right now. I said, really? You guys have turned the corner? It's busy again? Like, and he goes, no. Sales suck. Sales suck right now. But it's really good because 2 gun dealers have went out of business in our town because they thought that the good days would never end. They'd never been through a downturn. And the comment that they said was really telling. They said, you find out who's real when the money dries up. And you find out who's been responsible when the money dries up, right? Well, in business, man, we find out and we learn so much more in difficult times and challenges, difficulties than we ever could know. And if we don't quit and we work through the problem, the blessing comes on the backside of that. Opposition in all things.
Sure. 100%. 100%. And I think, this is interesting too, Josh, because I've lived by the saying for a long time. I don't remember where I got it. You can either be right or you can be rich. So think about this with your relationships. You have people who have offended you. Excuse me. Nobody's offended you. You have people that you have taken offense to. You got to take responsibility for it. You have taken offense to whatever they've said, right? And so you're like, I'm never talking to that person again. One of our best friends that we have done so much business with came from a guy who I would not put on the top of my list as someone who is honest that I would want to do business with. But when that person called, Josh took the call, right? It's an older relationship of Josh's. And so even though it's like, okay, I know I don't want to do business with this guy, but the saying is flocks of a feather. It doesn't really hold true in this scenario, because you go, okay, if he's a good guy, that means he only hangs out with good guys. No. He may spend most of his time with good guys, but I promise you he knows other people, and he's been bitten before too by somebody, right? But whether I like them or whether they've treated me good or whether they've harmed me in business before, I always take the phone call, because even those relationships have led to some of the best relationships we have in the world today, right? Where you're like, I don't want to do business with this guy, but who does he know? And all of a sudden you're talking to somebody who he knows that goes, well, yeah, he took advantage of me too, right? And all of a sudden you got this thing in common and you two become friends. And this guy you just met does have some integrity and knows how to do business. And now you have this whole new world. So you can't, when I say you can either be right or you can be rich, you can hang on to your ego and be like, oh, that person offended me, or I got offended by that person, or whatever, however you want to say it. I'm never talking to them again. Okay. You can be right. You're right. But guess what? They may put you on the phone with somebody that's unbelievable, or they may introduce you to an opportunity that has nothing to do with them that's unbelievable. So you can be right or you can be rich, but you should foster all those relationships. There are some relationships that need to be arm's length, right?
Yeah.
And it's some are trust but verify, and some are like, don't trust at all, but I'm going to hear to see what's going to be said. Because even guys who are shady that are going to take advantage of you get offers from other people who are honest, and they don't know that they're not honest, right? And they come across some great deals and great opportunities. You ought to hear what they have to say. You never know. You might meet somebody or run into your next opportunity that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, you just don't know, right? You just don't. It's funny you say that. That guy that really screwed us and was a weasel, right? Bad news. I would have to put in the last 2 years, we could just go the last 2 years of all the businesses we have in the world, we probably did $500 million last year in sales in all the companies combined through contacts and relationships we made that only came through that dirtbag. That true statement?
Yep. But guess what?
We have 5 businesses I can think of right now that are all profitable that came through that relationship.
But we never did business with that guy.
No, we never did business.
Right?
After the first go round of crap. No.
But the relationships that came out of that he knew, when everybody else was like, yeah, he screwed us too. We're like, yay, we can all have this party together. We all got hosed by this guy, right? But it's 100% true.
And we're in a spot right now that one of those relationships, right? True, Zach. We just had a hedge fund manager come in to look at one of those a business that we're starting. A hedge fund manager came in through that relationship, wanting to give us $1 billion for that venture, for a new venture. Now we told him no, that we don't want to be in bed with a hedge fund, but we're champions of little guys, right? At the end of the day, we're champions of little guys, and I'm not here to make hedge funds. You're not here to make hedge funds turn their billion into 2 billion. That's not why we exist. There's plenty of people in Wall Street and do that, but that's not why we exist, right?
Yeah. By the way, I totally forgot about this. Josh, you remember this? So this guy that we're talking about that came through the shyster, he put us on the phone with the Secretary of Economies from China. Yeah. And they wanted to invest $10 billion in our oil and gas mineralite fund. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
I forgot about that. But it was from that relationship. Now we chose not to do the deal because we didn't want to be owned by China or do business with China because it was with the Communist Party. Yeah. Like she was part of the
Communist Party. The Secretary of Economy for the Communist Party of China wanted to give you and I $10 billion to buy mineral rights, and we said, we just don't think that the Chinese Communist Party should own our oil. So we gave him the double bird finger, right? Yep. And,
but that came from the guy
Rick.
Became really good friends.
His first name's Rick. Now he got me all spun up. I love him and hate him. I've made so much money because of him, but when I think about him, Zach, I get a little fiery. A little fiery in me.
But if he's still alive and he calls either one of us today, what are you doing?
I'll answer the freaking phone.
Yeah, because the guy can.
Because who knows,
right?
Who knows?
So you should oftentimes people think, two things here. This is kind of interesting because we deal in both these worlds, right? We're in traditional business. We're also in what people would call network or direct sales. So oftentimes people who are in direct sales, they hear this make a list thing. They're like, oh, that's really networky. I'm not going to make a list, right, of people I know. And then oftentimes people outside of that, when you talk about a networking group or networking, they're like, oh, well, I'm not in network marketing. Well, hold on. People who are in traditional business, entrepreneurs, we have lots of other businesses. Guess what we do every day? We network and we make lists. Okay, if we're going to start this company, who are the people we're going to put on paper that we're going to go tell about first? Because they might be able to get us into a market we're trying to get into or help us move the product in a certain way, right? People who are in direct sales or network marketing, you should be making a list because it's exactly what everybody else does when they launch their company. And you should be building your network as big as you can because your net worth is only as big as your network. It applies in both worlds, right? It's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what industry you are in or what business category you would call it. People need the product and they have the money to pay you, right? That's it. End of the day. And if you don't know enough people or your network's not big enough, you need to expand that, right? If you don't have the money you want, expand your network. Watch what happens.
Yeah, it's just one of those simple things in the world, right? If you do that, that's all it takes to be successful most of the time is expand your network and be somebody that people want to be around. And if you don't know how to do that, we'll have an episode, I'm sure, on that one day about finding mentors and how to get mentors and where you can go for those in the world. But at the end of the day, expand your network at every chance and do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, be reliable.
Be reliable and connect people. When somebody brings you a problem, don't ever turn it down. Like, find a solution to their problem. Even if you can't fix it, try and find someone that can fix it. Be known as the guy or girl in your town, in your area, in your sphere of influence that people bring problems to. By the way, if you hate that, if you absolutely hate that, being an entrepreneur is not for you.
Nope.
That's the definition of an entrepreneur. But that's okay. You don't have to be.
And don't ask for money up front.
Yeah. Don't
solve that problem.
Never ask for money up front. The world will pay you if you add value to it. Just the reality. I wish I'd have known that when I was 22.
Me too.
I learned that about 28, but at 22, I didn't know that. I wonder what I could have done with those 5 or 6 years different if I wasn't trying to just make money. Like, how many opportunities did I miss because I let money get in the way of a good connection, some good education, a good mentor. We should do everything in our power.
think about this. I mean, there's this law of exchange, right? It just is. Okay. One thing has to be traded for another. But if someone's trying to solve a problem, now if it's your business to solve the problem, then yes, you should get paid for it. But if somebody's coming to you trying to solve a problem, it's not your core business, you should do everything in your power to help them solve the problem. And then even if they try to pay you, don't take the money, because now the exchange has happened. You help them, they paid you, it's over. Don't take the money. There is some weird thing that hangs out there in the laws of the universe that if you don't take the money, you are still owed something. And somewhere down the road, lots of those people will remember that, and they'll go, you know what, that guy did this for me. I never paid him. I'm calling him, right? He's just a good guy or a good girl. So don't take the money up front, right? If you connect somebody, don't take the money. Just build a relationship, move it down the road, and then see how both of you can make a lot of money together.
Yeah, it's just the way of the world. And so, for those that are listening today, this is something for us that it just comes up over and over in our life, right? Is the network effect and growing your network and doing it in a way that's that adds value to the rest of the people around you. That's how you'll be successful. So we appreciate you joining us today for this week's episode of the Sound Money, Sound Principles podcast. If you like it, if you like what we have to share, do us a favor, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching us on Apple Music or on Spotify or on YouTube Music or YouTube. We appreciate everyone. We do this again. We started this for no financial remuneration. We give a little bit of our time every week to share with people who want to know the things that we've learned to get where we are. And many people start a podcast because they want to make money or they want to be famous. We want neither of those damn things. We make plenty of money. We absolutely could care less to be any more famous than we are. But if you're somebody who enjoys what we're doing, just let us know. This is why we're here, because we're here for you. We're here so that you can learn, so that you can grow, so you can figure out the next idea that you have. You can make it a reality. That's why we're here. So Zach, I'll let you have the last word today.
Yeah, and if you guys have a topic that you've been thinking about or something you're struggling with in business, hit us up on one of the chats, private messages on one of the platforms that we're on. We'll look at it, and if we have any expertise on it, we'll share it with you. And if we don't have any expertise on it, maybe we'll open up the network and we'll see if we can find somebody that does. In fact, I'm hoping maybe our next podcast episode, I'm really hoping we can parlay into the next piece, and that is, what do you do when the opportunity comes, right? If you've networked and the opportunity comes, I've got a friend, both of us have a friend who over the years has been so fun to watch in the different business that he's been a part of. And we might try to get him on and talk about.
Well, he was supposed to be on today. But he's such an entrepreneur that he wants to be on bad. But he was such an entrepreneur that something happened today in business that an opportunity arose for him.
Yep, and he took it.
And he took it. You've heard me say before, opportunity waits for no man. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yep, and oftentimes it shows up in work clothes.
Yeah, that's it. Oftentimes. So we can't wait.
Stay tuned.
He's going to join us. I think next week he's going to be with us. You're right. This is a great. He's going to be a great guest to parlay in some of this discussion from the day. So, all right, we'll let everybody go. Appreciate everybody. Have a great week. Can't wait to see you next time on the Sound Money, Sound Principles podcast. See ya.
See everybody.